Hey guys, it's Anne from the Flower Box, and today I have something really fun planned. We're going to make unicorn party cookies. Any day you're making a unicorn cookie is a good day, but today we're gonna make a unicorn head. We're also gonna make a cute rainbow, which is a little bit simpler, and then we're gonna do a cute unicorn. But because it's a party, I'm throwing in a couple extra shapes. We're gonna do a cake slice, a cupcake, a present, and a party hat. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but guess what? I'm only using 5 icing colors. I'm sticking to my New Year's resolution to stick to 5 colors. So you'll see white and black. You'll also see a pastel fuchsia, a pastel teal, and a pastel golden yellow. So keeping it simple for the win. In today's video, you're also gonna see a couple of really cool specialty tips. I'm going to use a tip number 44 and a 67 on the gift box. I'm also gonna use a tip number 13, that's the star tip, on the party hat. And I'm gonna show you how to use tip number 129, which is a drop flower tip. So lots of fun things happening in this video. Plus, these cutters, the star stencil, and the specialty tips are all part of our unicorn party cookie decorating kit. You can check out the details below in the status. All right, these cookies are so fun, so let's get started. Let's kick this unicorn party off with my favorite cookie, the unicorn head. Using the template, I cut the mane out so that I could trace an outline onto the cookie. This just helps me pipe that area with lots of confidence so that I don't have to imagine where those lines are going to be each time. It doesn't take long to trace those lines onto the cookies. I find usually for a dozen cookies, it'll take me about 5 minutes to trace them. Then I'll outline the mane and the head and the unicorn horn, and I'm using tip number 2 on all of those icing bags. Now I have my flood icing in a tipless bag. Notice I leave just a little section under the chin unflooded. That way I can just tap up against that outline so that it's still visible once the icing is dry. I'll flood in the horn, and then I'll let those areas dry. I'll flood in the mane pretty generously, not leaving a lot of cookie showing. And then I'll use the pointy end of my boo-boo stick just to pull that bang out and give it a nice little swirl. Now it's time for some details. I'll pipe some S curves, and again, I still have my number 2 tip on my icing bag. And then I'm ready to add some lines to create the mane. And I'm just piping some nice wavy lines. I've piped this cookie before, so I have a general idea of where I want those lines to go. But if it helps you to download the template and use that in your projector, that could also be very helpful. If you make a little mistake, just wiggle your boo-boo stick in there and you can smooth out those lines. For the eyelash, I really want that detail to be delicate, so I'm using extra light hand pressure, and I've sized that black icing tip down to a number 1. I'm gonna add a drop flower onto the mane to finish off this cookie. Let me show you how I made those flowers. They're so easy. To make the flowers, I put a tip number 129 onto my icing bag. And I'm making sure that the piping icing is a little bit thicker so that that flower holds its shape. Then I'm turning the tip as I squeeze out the icing. A nice even hand squeeze and a turn will get these really cute but super easy drop flowers. Once I've piped a bunch out on a piece of parchment, I'll add a white center using tip number 2. And then I'll let these dry for about 6 to 8 hours before I peel them off and use them on the cookie. Usually drying overnight ensures that you won't break any. Let's move on to our next cookie. I'm decorating this cute unicorn, and again, I love when my cookies look consistent from cookie to cookie, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of help using the template and trace some lines to guide my piping. I like to start with piping the mane first, but I did save a little area for the ear, so I'll pipe that as soon as the mane is in place. Then I'll follow generally the shape of the cookie, reserving a little bit of room for the feet. If it gives you more confidence to draw guidelines for those areas as well, definitely go ahead and do so. Then I'll flood in the main body and the ear and let that icing area dry just for a little bit before coming back to do the tail and the mane. Again, I'm pretty generous with that flood icing as I flood in the mane and the feet. Now I'm ready for the horn, and I want a little bit of texture here, so I'm using tip number 2 with the gold icing and just piping overlapping pearls. Now it's time for the details. Some swirled lines for the mane. And don't forget the tail. And I'll add a cute little face with a dot of icing. Again, I have sized down to tip number 1 just to keep those icing areas nice and delicate for the eyelashes. And I have another drop flower that I'm going to add to the mane. And don't forget the final touch, a little heart on the bum. I also did a unicorn using the Sugar Bell sprinkle set. So I have a little purple star for an accent, and I used a candy horn for the unicorn horn. This is cute, and the sprinkles are lots of fun, but as you can see, you can do it both ways. Since we just tackled 2 of the feature cookies of this set, let's take a look at this easier accent cookie, which is the rainbow. I'll outline the clouds and the rainbow areas, and I'll flood 2 sections in and let them dry. I love the definition that happens between icing areas when you allow a little bit of drying time. When I go back and flood in the yellow, it just gives a nice detail between each icing area. I let that yellow dry, and then I'm ready to flood in the clouds. We're almost done with this cookie. While this white icing is still wet, I just want to add a little bit of sparkle. So I'm using some sprinkles that I have in my cabinet. I have stars, or you can use other sprinkles that are just lots of fun, like this pink sprinkle mix. We carry several different sprinkle mixes on flowerboxbakery.com. You'll have to check it out. I like to put a coffee filter under my cookie when I'm doing the sprinkles. That way, if some sprinkles overflow, I can easily funnel them back into my sprinkle container and reuse any extra sprinkles. It's kind of easy. I love this cookie. It looks yummy, and it isn't hard to do. Now it's time to decorate some of our birthday cookies. So let's start off with the cake slice. This also makes an awesome pumpkin pie slice. I'm going to outline the icing area first, and then the cake area, and I'm gonna flood in the yellow. While the yellow is still wet, I'm gonna do a wet on wet polka dot. So I'm adding teal flood icing to that yellow base to create those cute polka dots. Then I'm ready to flood in the pink icing after that area has a little bit of time to dry. I'll let that icing dry again, and I'll add some whimsical loops to the top of the cake slice. Just even hand pressure and rhythm as I move across the top. I'll also add a bead border of icing. I just think this adds a cool texture to the cookie, and it breaks up the icing areas. If you want to really pull that icing to the foreground, add some piped lines, and that'll really give your cake slice a little bit more dimension. Now we're almost done with this one. Let's just add one of those cute little drop flowers. That'll coordinate awesome with our unicorns and make this cake slice just super cute. What's a party that has cake and not presents? Let's do this present box next. I love using this cookie cutter, not just for birthdays, but also for Christmas. So I like to add polka dots to this, but I'm gonna size down my opening. So I've put a number 1 tip in my tipless bag, and I'm just gonna slide my tipless bag into the bag with the tip. And this will give me lots of control over the size of that dot, because I really love how these little mini dots look on the present. I'll start in the middle and then I'll just work my way out. This is super helpful with getting good spacing. Now I'm gonna explore with some different tip sizes. I have a wide, flat tip number 44 on my yellow icing bag. And this is awesome for adding these ribbon details, because I would hate to have to pipe and flood such small icing areas. But I love that it gives the ribbon a substantial look. Now I want to add a big pink bow at the top. And to make this a quick and easy detail, I'm using tip number 67, which is a leaf tip, but it also just happens to make a really fun, big, fluffy pink bow. Using number 2 for the center, now I'm ready to bring this box to life by piping a couple of lines for the box edge. I just love how a few pipe lines can really bring that box into a 3D look. Here's another awesome party cookie to go with this birthday theme. We're gonna do a party hat. I've already flooded the base white and allowed it to dry, and now I wanna airbrush some gold stars. I love airbrushing because it just adds a quick pattern to my cookie surface. I'm just using nice light pressure on the trigger as I blow that color across the cookie. Once the color's on there, I'm gonna add the ruffle. And I have a star tip, number 13, on my pink icing bag. The tip really does all of the work because it has those really cool grooves in it, but it's my job to move it in that zigzag pattern to really bring the ruffle to life. And then when you have any little gaps in the icing between the ruffle and the hat, I find it's helpful to go back in between and pipe a bead border. It's a quick and simple accent that will cover up any little gaps between the ruffle and the hat. Time for the pom-pom, and we're gonna do some icing loops. I'll use the cookie as an outline as I pipe the loops around, but once I jump onto the hat, I kind of lose that guide. So I found that piping 2 loops on the hat works out really well. Then I'll go back with my pink icing. Again, I'm using tip number 2, and I'm gonna pipe these loops just a little bit shorter so that the blue's peeking out from behind, and I found a few less loops fit as well. To clean up that icing area, I'll just pipe a white center, and that cookie's done. Let's wrap up this unicorn party with a fun cupcake. Now, this cupcake is part of this unicorn party, but really you can invite this cookie to any party. I'll add 2 icing dots at the top of the wrapper. That just helps me to know where I'm stopping and starting when I'm piping that icing area. Then I'm gonna use the cupcake shape to guide my outline. So each curve of the cookie cutter is a layer of icing. To add some detail to the wrapper, after I flood in the teal icing, I'll add some white lines also using the flood. Then I'll go in with my boo-boo stick, and I'll just run the tip of the stick through the icing to create some nice folds of the wrapper. I'll let all of those icing areas dry, and then I'll go back and flood in with the light fuchsia. When I flood those areas nice and full, I find that I don't need to pick up my scribe. Then, to finish this off, I'll pipe a line between the icing and the wrapper and add 2 teardrops to create a heart cherry on top. That was so much fun. If you're looking to make these cookies at home, definitely check out the blog post. The link to the blog post is listed below in the status. I'll give you some tips on packing the cookies, how to plan your icing, how to plan your cookie schedule. Plus, there's more details about that unicorn party cookie decorating kit if you're interested in that. Post questions below, and don't forget to hashtag Flowerbox Bakery or tag us on social media. I'd love to see what you create after watching this video. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Happy decorating!